You wouldn't believe what our power-hungry HOA president demanded when she passed a rule requiring everyone to keep their garage doors open all day. I held my ground and called my brother-in-law, the chief of police. But what we discovered in her office turned everything upside down. Would you have risked a $200 daily fine just to protect your home? The bright red notice fluttered in my hand as I stood on my porch, reading it for the third time, hoping my eyes were deceiving me. Mandatory: all garage doors must remain open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily, effective immediately. Noncompliance will result in a $200 fine per day. I stormed inside, tossed the paper onto the kitchen counter, and took a deep breath. I'd lived in Willow Creek Estates for 5 years, and the HOA had pulled plenty of power trips before, but this was beyond ridiculous. The phone rang. It was Rachel from across the street. "Did you get the notice?" she asked, her voice tight with anger. "Just did. This can't possibly be legal." "Brian is furious," she said. "All his woodworking equipment is in the garage. That stuff's worth a fortune." "Let me guess, this was Linda Grantham's idea?" Rachel sighed. "Of course. Who else? She's finally lost it. Linda Grantham, our HOA president, always in pearls, with her perfectly pressed blazer and that uptight blonde bob that never moved, not even in a hurricane. She was the type of person who fined old Mr. Wilkes for having patriotic wind chimes that didn't match the approved color palette. She once sent 3 warning letters to the Yates family because their Halloween decorations went up a day early. I hung up and peeked through my blinds. Sure enough, several neighbors were already in their driveways, waving those red notices in the air and arguing with one another. And then I saw Herlinda herself strutting house to house with a clipboard, her smile smug and self-satisfied. 20 minutes later, my doorbell rang. I didn't need to check the peephole to know who it was. "Good afternoon," she said, her voice sugary sweet, but her eyes cold. "Just making sure you received today's notice regarding the garage door policy." "I did," I said coolly. "And I have concerns about security." Her smile turned rigid. "The board voted unanimously after discovering illegal rental units operating out of 3 garages. This measure ensures compliance with zoning regulations." "So everyone pays for a few rule breakers?" "Rules exist for a reason," she snapped. "Your garage door needs to be open by 8 a.m. tomorrow, or you'll be fined." And with that, she spun on her heel and marched off to torment the next house. I grabbed my phone and called my brother-in-law, Caleb. He's the chief of police in the next town over. "That's practically inviting theft," he said after I explained the situation. "That's a huge liability for the HOA. Can they really force us to do this? HOAs have a lot of power, but they can't create unsafe conditions. Send me the notice." That night, I watched as my neighbors scrambled to drag bikes, power tools, and golf clubs out of their garages and into their houses. Some covered what they couldn't move with tarps. A few were installing security cameras in a hurry. Just before sunset, Brian, Rachel's husband, and a retired judge knocked on my door. "I've been reviewing our HOA bylaws," he said, brows furrowed. "Security-related policy changes require a 2/3 community vote. They never held one. That means the rule isn't enforceable. So we can fight it? In theory. But Linda has a lot of allies. Most folks don't have the stomach or money for a legal battle." I barely slept. By 7:55 the next morning, I was at my window watching garage doors slowly rise like some coordinated surrender. Mine stayed shut. At 8:17, Linda arrived with one of her lackeys, a jittery man named Greg. "You're in violation," she said triumphantly, scribbling on her clipboard. "I'm exercising my right to home security," I replied. "The HOA bylaws require community approval for security-related changes. We held an emergency board meeting. The decision is final. Then I'd like to see the meeting minutes and voting records." Her face flushed. "Those will be available at next month's meeting. Meanwhile, your fines begin today." As they walked away, a white van cruised slowly down the street, the driver clearly scanning the open garages. A chill ran down my spine. By that afternoon, social media was buzzing. A new group popped up, closed the doors. Within hours, it had 50 members. I posted about the suspicious van, and the post got shared dozens of times. That night, I invited Rachel, Brian, and a few other neighbors to my living room. We formed what we jokingly called the Garage Door Committee. We need to know why this is happening now, Rachel said. Linda's been president for years. What changed? Brian flipped through the HOA financial records I'd requested months ago. Look here, he said, pointing. Landscaping expenses have tripled in the past year. And the vendor? Grantham and Company. Is that Linda's husband's company? I asked. Yup. Before we could dig deeper, the doorbell rang. It was Greg, the committee guy who'd been tagging along with Linda. I shouldn't be here, he whispered, looking around nervously. But this garage door, really, it's not about illegal apartments. Linda's brother-in-law works for a security company. They're using this to assess homes for vulnerabilities. They're gonna push a new, discounted security system at next month's meeting. That's illegal, Rachel breathed. Greg nodded. I've already said too much. The next morning, a $200 fine was taped to my mailbox. 6 other homes on our street had stayed closed, too. I called Caleb. It's escalating. She's using the HOA for personal gain. That's interesting, he said. Might be time I paid your neighborhood an official visit. While we were on the phone, I heard shouting. I looked out the window and saw Linda blocking Mr. Yates from closing his garage. My tools are in there, he protested. Not my problem, she snapped, standing in front of the button like a bouncer. I grabbed my phone and filmed the whole thing. This had gone too far. Then came the inevitable, a break-in. The Webersnice couple, always kept to themselves, came home from grocery shopping to find their garage ransacked. Tools, bikes, even a generator gone. Linda arrived during the police investigation, her face smug. This has nothing to do with the new policy, she insisted. Doesn't it? I said. If they could have closed their garage, this wouldn't have happened. Your fine just doubled for inciting unrest, she snapped. That's when I knew. This wasn't about rules. This was about corruption. Caleb texted me that night. Found something interesting about Grantham and Company. Meet tomorrow. 9 a.m. The next morning, Caleb showed up in full uniform. We drove to the HOA office, a renovated house at the neighborhood entrance. Linda sat at her desk, surrounded by papers, her usual mask of authority intact. Mrs. Grantham, Caleb began, I'm investigating a string of thefts in this community directly linked to your garage policy. HOA policies are internal matters, she said sharply. We're not liable for theft. Actually, Caleb replied, if your policy creates unsafe conditions, the HOA can be liable. Her assistant, a young woman named Megan, entered with files. The board minutes, she whispered, setting them on the desk. I spotted payment records, $45,000 to Grantham and Company. Another $27,000 to a company called Fortified Solutions. Same mailing address. Interesting reading, I said. Linda slapped a folder over the documents. We're done here. Not quite, Caleb said, sliding a legal document across the desk. This is a formal request to suspend the garage policy pending investigation. Megan knocked over a stack of brochure security systems from Fortified Solutions. Launching next month, one read. I looked at Linda. Perfect marketing strategy, create the problem, sell the solution. Outside, Caleb looked thoughtful. We need more evidence. But I know someone who can help. That afternoon, Karen, Caleb's old high school friend. Now a reporter, came by with a cameraman. Just in time, too. Linda and 2 board members were walking toward my house with legal papers in hand. Karen stepped forward, microphone raised. Care to comment on your policies linked to recent thefts, Mrs. Grantham? Linda froze. This is private HOA business. Is it also private when contracts worth over $70,000 go to your husband's company? No comment, Linda hissed, fleeing to her car. That night, I found something in my mailbox. A USB drive and a note. Security camera footage from the boardroom. From a friend. Heart pounding, I plugged it in. The video showed Linda, her husband, and her brother-in-law laughing. Force open garages, one said. Create demand. Sell security. I sent the footage to Caleb, Karen, and Brian. We had our smoking gun. The next day, Linda showed up at my house. Name your price, she said flatly. Want no HOA fees for a year? That patio extension you applied for? Just end this crusade. I looked her dead in the eye. I want your resignation. Today. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Actually, I said, I do. My brother-in-law is the chief of police, and I've got 78 neighbors and video evidence. So noon. Emergency board meeting. What I didn't expect was flashing red and blue lights pulling into my driveway that night. Two cops not from Caleb's department approached with a warrant. Stolen property has been traced to this address. Linda was framing me. I let them search. One emerged with a power drill wrapped in cloth, the same model stolen from the Webbers. Check it for fingerprints, I said. You won't find mine. Then I remembered me cameras. Inside, I pulled up footage showing someone sneaking into my garage at 3:17 a.m. The streetlight caught his face, Linda's husband. The officers exchanged looks. We'll need a copy of this. When I stepped outside, Brian showed me property records. Linda's family had bought 6 foreclosed homes in the past 2 years, triggered by excessive fines, then resold them for huge profits. By noon, the entire community center was packed. Karen's crew rolled tape as I played the footage for everyone to see. This is who's been running our neighborhood. Linda was arrested. Her husband cut a deal. Her brother-in-law tried to vanish. We voted to dissolve the current board, suspend all illegitimate policies, and hold new elections. 6 weeks later, I was elected treasurer. Brian became HOA president. We instituted transparency, reduced fees, and created a community watch that actually worked. 1 year after the garage fiasco, we held a block party. Kids rode bikes. Dogs barked. People laughed. And as I gave a short speech that night, I looked out across the crowd and smiled. Our garage doors are finally closed, but our hearts are open. And this time, it really felt like home.